All right, move forward with a budget amendment for special counsel. We'll have City Administrator Andy Kitzrow help guide us with this.
Sure. In your packet, you have a budget amendment requesting additional funding for a special counsel for our labor relations. As you all know, we are winding down those negotiations, working on the final drafts to then bring before you all for ratification. It's been an expensive, long, arduous process. We did come up short in our budget at around $475 an hour. The hours do add up. You have the details of the budget in there. We knew we were going to exceed the initial cash injection of the $50,000, but we well exceeded that. A lot of back and forth negotiations. Also being the first time, and it being with 3 separate bargaining units, it got rather expensive. So I think this is a one and done for this cost. I don't see us spending this in 2 years from now when we renegotiate. We've got everything. That's our framework and where we would be. I know we have further conversations just in general about labor relations, but we do have bills that we need to pay. And I'm open for any questions.
Council? You're right. There's no. I mean, it's a bill we have to pay. So I mean, I think again, we all have questions, but it's I don't know if it's prudent for us to go through it. I think the only thing is, I guess if we knew it, what's the process behind coming? I know that the $50,000 and that was discussed budget last year, and I saw where that kind of went over. So I guess that a heads up to council next time if this. If you know that this is going to go forward, I guess just hey, you may see an adjustment level of X amount would be kind of a...
Absolutely. It was my first time.
Yeah.
We all kind of went through this first time, and then when you get the invoice, a little bit of sticker shock in general. So again, I don't think we would be spending this amount of money in the future. But a lot, when we decided on the labor code as is, it left a lot of room for negotiation. So a lot of back and forth on some smaller level items, that ended up being costly. Talking with our legal firm, our special counsel, and even Laura over there could probably echo it. This isn't too expensive. We knew we were going to be into the 6 figures by the time we were all said and done with this. And we haven't even gotten the labor contracts negotiated, and then there will be, what happens next. So, but we are where we are.
Yes. So this includes, so Councilwoman Deschio asked will there be more cost, and this here includes a projection for this month and next month, correct?
Yes, it would be March. Having sat in on the meetings, our March bill we had is about $40,000. April was just as busy with meetings. That's when we did a lot of our final negotiations. And then May and June will probably be about half that. We are doing some sidebar letters. We're having a couple meetings just to actually finalize the final documents as a placeholder. I'm hoping we don't need all of that total amount. Sure. And whatever we don't spend will go right back to the general fund.
Good.
There will be additional funding that happens after July 1. I think we can probably absorb most of that in our current allocation of our legal fees that we budgeted this year. But let's kind of see where we land. I'm not sure once we get into labor relations and unions and arbitration, hopefully not where we'll land. There will be a little bit of negotiation next year around the January, February as part of the agreement to talk about wages, but it won't be nearly as lucrative or time consuming as this.
Good. We'll just keep the conversation short with the attorneys so that those billable hours are minimal. I see we have 2 public comments, so we'll start with them, Mr. Robert Taylor. And if we could keep the discussion around the special counsel for the labor discussions.
Yeah, I'd like to use a 4-letter word for this, but I'll use a 3-letter word, wow, just wow. I think it's what now, 250% over the estimate. And Mr. Kitzrow just said, we knew it was going to be in 6 figures when we got into this. Well, if that's the case, why do you just budget $50,000? I mean, I'm a pretty dumb clock, but I think I know better than that. And I wasn't far off. I think in the thing I sent you by email, I guessed the hourly rate would be in the $500 range. He just said $475. So I was close, no cigar. I mean, these agreements are not all that unusual. Yeah, they might be 3 negotiating groups, but they're all pretty much the same boilerplate. I sent you a bunch of them. And I just don't understand it. And I would point this out, though, in the future. TIFs, pilots, anything else, let's remember how much over budget this was on this matter. Because if we're going to under budget, we're going to get shafted. Thank you.
Lynn Breton.
I'm sure Mr. Taylor, Lynn Bratton again from South Boulevard in Salisbury. I'm sure Mr. Taylor sent you adequate information, but as a tax-paying individual in the city of Salisbury, I have one main question, I guess, is how was this particular legal firm vetted, chosen, and hired? Was it competitive bidding? Did you get information from other areas? Did you compare and contrast? And once you did get this this shock bill, did we go back and try to say, we really didn't expect it to be this much? You should have told us somewhere along the line that we were going over budget by this much money. And can we negotiate that for the future, because you're going to want to continue doing business with us, we think. Maybe we need to come up with some understanding here, because it's a lot over. And I'm all for everybody getting fair pay and fair wages and fair benefits. I get all that, but we're not the first organization that's written the book. I think there could have been a lot that could have been cut and pasted and then tweaked, and it should not have cost us that much in overages. And if it was, by golly, somebody should have told you ahead of time, and they shouldn't have just sent you a whammy bill. It's like getting your car repaired, and you think you're getting brakes done, and you go in and they've replaced your whole engine, and you're looking at a $10,000 job instead of a $35 or a $50. I don't do cars, but it's the same kind of thing. Truth in advertising. Bill it, but don't send me a bill and then just say pay it because, oh, we did it already, and you have to pay us. That's my 2 cents. Consumer Economics 101.
Thank you.
No, yeah. The only thing I would say, and Laura, you're more than welcome to jump in for the kind of the record, when we went through selecting our special counsel, this was the firm, this is the person who does labor relations with Ocean City Fire Department all across the state, several large firms. By spending the money now, we protected ourselves significantly in the future. Absolutely worth every penny. I don't think the rate was the issue. I think that was absolutely fair. I was not prepared for as many hours of back and forth negotiations. What's as interesting is this is what we had to pay because we had to do it 3 times over. The other sides had to pay this too. This was also footed by. So a lot of the areas that we might have settled on or wanted to compromise on, we had a separate entity advocating and arguing against it. So this drug out a little bit by just having to play this back and forth game. So learned a lot. Rather expensive. Laura, I'm not sure if you want to.
Yeah, I would agree with what Andy said, and a lot of times it's difficult to predict what a legal fee is going to be because it's the back and forth that causes more hours to be spent, and you don't know what the back and forth is going to be until you see what the other side says and how much back and forth is needed. I guess my time's up.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the car was already in the shop when I got into office. But
Same.
Yeah, same with you guys. Same with you guys. But I think hopefully this summer, late fall, we can make some tweaks to maybe the labor agreement and maybe how it interfaces with the union negotiation to make our situation a little more simple going forward. So I hope we can get to that point, and maybe that'll help. So.
Yes, I think this is a lesson learned for all. So, council, we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. And yes, for me as well. We'll move forward to administration and council comments. We'll start with you, Mayor.
The Unity Square grand opening was great. We had that on Friday night, and I think we went off without a hitch. My son graduated from college with summa cum laude, which I was very proud of him. Max, go Max. And so it was a good
Works at
weekend.
University Car Wash.
Yeah.
He
that's
does
right.
really good. Yeah.
He's a worker.
I think he did really well because he was like, "You work with the mayor, right?" I was like, "Yeah, we see each other a couple times."
Yeah, he's good. So it was a good weekend. So that's about all I had. Nothing
Haitian
big.
Flag Day celebration was yesterday downtown. I can hear it from my neighborhood. Drove by. It seemed like a lot of people were having a great time out there. That was really cool. Big vote tomorrow night at the county council. If people want to see the library get a facelift in a new location and want to see a downtown performing arts center right in this downtown heart of Salisbury, go out and show your support of that vote tomorrow at the Wycomico County Council meeting. We are absolutely in support of having a performing arts theater down in the middle of Salisbury. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Good. All right, we'll just go right down the line. Councilwoman Gregory, sorry.
Just was really thrilled for the opening of Unity Square, and see so many kids out there playing, and I'm wondering how quickly they regretted running through the sprinklers with as cool as it was out, but they looked like they were having a good time while they were doing it. So it was just amazing turnout. Third Friday gets bigger and better every year, every month. It's nice. It was nice to be able to get outside, get out of the house, do something to just kind of relax and hang out, see all the different vendors, that sort of thing. But Unity Square was definitely the highlight of it, and it was really a lovely event, ribbon cutting, and great to see everybody come out.
Good. Yes. Councilwoman Jackson.
Don't have really much to say. I didn't do too much this weekend. I'm recovering, and I thanks for everyone who contacted me and offered a helping hand. And that's really all I have to say right now because I'm still in pain.
Yes. Well, good to see you, Councilwoman Jackson, and our thoughts are with you. But rest up so we can have you back here, Councilwoman DeShiel.
I keep track, particularly for you, Lynn, as a friend and as a person who has brought this up, expecting us to tell you what we do and give you feedback. I had a meeting with the Salisbury Wycomico Metropolitan Planning Organization. Okay. What was very interesting to me, since I'm new to that organization, is they got a pretty long report from the State Department of Highway Administration. And they're looking at different lights, and there's specifically one on Route 13, which doesn't relate to the city, but Andy is aware of this as well, out near the mall where there's a big issue, and I'm sure the fire department would be thrilled, and the police department, to know that they got this properly, reworked, so to speak, so there aren't quite so many accidents out there. They're also working on connecting Del Mar to Seaford with the bike paths and making it easier for less congestion and more safety. Chief Mindshine and all of his officers. There was a recognition National Police Memorial Week and awards ceremony this past week, and it included a fabulous lunch, but that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was to honor those fallen heroes, but at the same time, they did it so well through a wonderful tradition and a traditional ceremony that one of the officers shared with me. He was very, very pleased because they haven't had the attendance that they had that they had the other day. So hopefully there's more support for what our police department is doing for us, and the more interaction, the more understanding there is of how we're trying to make this a safer place to be. Habitat had another blessing. Michelle and I were they had two blessings this week, and it kind of is overwhelming because the older woman, younger, took 5 years for this to come to fruition. And that's a real commitment when you think 5 years and how many people need the housing and everything they have to put into that in order to finally make that commitment. PAC 14 will be celebrating their 25th anniversary. That will be coming up. And they have become far more involved in the community in the last few years as far as covering events and reaching out. And this has made them more visible and they're happy to be able to do this for the community at large. And Unity Square, everything has been said. So thank you for those of you coming today, and if you have any questions on those committees, let me know.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeShiel. Council Vice President?
You've said so much here, my goodness. Anyway, I did want to bring up, last week was the a ghost ride, which cyclists got together, and if you had noticed the bicycles that were spray painted white in front of headquarters, those were from bikers who were killed on our roadways while they were riding their bicycles. So the ghost ride is held yearly nationally, and this is, I think, the second annual one for Salisbury area, just to bring awareness for safety and sharing the roads for bicyclists. And I think, yeah, weren't you out there and out and about?
Yes, so we declared May as a bike month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
on behalf of council, so I was out there. I told them that next year I'll bring a bike and I'm going to practice. So I'll
Right.
make some time and so I can be out there actually riding.
So I think it was on a Wednesday night, so I couldn't go on a Wednesday night because, okay. I just want to make sure that everyone knows about the Salisbury Zoo Gala again. It's
June 8th.
June 8th. June 8th, you can go on the Salisbury website, Salisbury Zoo website, and get all the details, but it's going to be a great event. It's celebrating their 70th anniversary, and it'll be a fantastic night with fine food and music, and you'll get to see all the cool animals and what's going on at the zoo. I think there's like auction items and all kind of other cool things too. So, and of course, once again, if you are healthy enough, please donate blood, be an organ donor. You just never know if you or your family member, a neighbor, may need that at one point in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman. It's lovely to go last because everything has been said and said so beautifully. Like everyone stated, we had a great weekend, lots of events going on in the city. Again, this is the reason why I love Salisbury. I'm continuing to stay in Salisbury for events like this. Friday with the ribbon cutting was absolutely amazing. Saw a lot of people out there. So I can't wait for the weather to continue to stay warm so we can continue to have safe events around. I'll just mention, again, a lot of high schoolers, had prom and everything, so hopefully they stay safe and have a good, safe summer. And as the weather warms up, again, watch out for people on bikes, motorcycles, etc., so that we can have a safe, enjoyable summer, and we'll remain that way. So we do see your comments, we do see your emails, we do see your concerns. Continue to bring them to us. We take them into consideration. We ask the questions for you. So continue to bug us. We like to. That is our role. That is our role to have questions asked, bring them to the attention, and that's what we want to do. So hold us accountable, and we'll make sure that we continue to make Salisbury a better place. So thank you all for what you do for us as well, because you all think of things that we don't, and that's what makes that's a part of government. So with that, this work session is now adjourned, and I'll call the special meeting to order. Could I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor of the special meeting agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We'll start off with ordinance number 2867. We'll invite Ms. Laura Ryan to the podium. Can I have a motion in a second to approve ordinance number 2867 for second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. This is ordinance 2867, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2024 Parking Authority Fund budget to appropriate funds for salaries. This is before you for second reading. There's been no additions or modifications since first reading.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2867 for second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye. Could I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2868 for second reading?
So move.
Second.
And this is ordinance number 2868, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2024 general fund budget to appropriate funds to get
or to the Salisbury Fire Department's operating budget. This is also before you for second reading. There's been no changes or modifications since the first reading.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2868 for second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. Could I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2873 for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
This is ordinance number 2873, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2024 general fund budget to appropriate funds to the Salisbury Fire Department's operating budget. Whereas the city has surpassed what was originally budgeted for gasoline in the fire department, and whereas the city's fuel budget has not kept up with the inflated price of gasoline seen during FY '24, and whereas there are insufficient funds available in the FY '24 fire department budget to cover the required expenses, and whereas the fire department requires additional funds to continue to operate through the remainder of FY 2024 without impacting services, and whereas the budget amendment as provided herein must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the council of the city of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, the city of Salisbury fiscal year 2024 general fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. Increase the current year surplus account 01000469810 by $20,000. B, increase the Salisbury Fire Department's gasoline account 24035556204 by $20,000. And the remainder of the ordinance is our standard language.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2873 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. Could I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2874 for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
This is ordinance number 2874, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2024 general fund budget to appropriate additional funds required for legal services, whereas the City of Salisbury is requiring services of special counsel for labor training and negotiations, and whereas the City of Salisbury has determined that an additional $125,000 will be required for those services, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the appropriation of $125,000 as provided here and above must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 1, Mayor Randolph J. Taylor is hereby authorized to appropriate funds for special counsel services in the amount of $125,000. And be it further enacted and ordained by the council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland as follows. Section 2, the City of Salisbury FY 24 general fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. Increase revenue account 01000469810, current year surplus by $125,000. And increase expenditure account 17000513302, other city attorney, by $125,000. And the remainder of the ordinance is our standard language.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2874 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, this special meeting is now adjourned, and I'll now call the budget session to order. Mr. Kitzrow, we will, if you could help guide this conversation as well, we'll kind of go pseudo line by line, but especially for any items that council has to wants to bring to the attention of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just primarily reason for the budget session is to really have a deeper dive into the fee schedule, knowing that you all did not have a thorough chance to review previously. I thought this would be a good time to actually go through the budget fee schedule for FY25. What was sent to you all included the fee schedule proposed for FY25. The items that were highlighted in yellow were items that were either added or modified or deleted. I did bring some people from different departments, so if we do drill down on any specific fees, asking, why the change, why the addition or elimination, I would invite them to come and present some additional facts. The document is 19 pages long. High-level buckets that I will just mention that have been included as additional revenue streams as we build our budget. The short-term rental fees that we discussed, there is a new fee schedule for that. Some additional adjustments within our parking permit revenues. Not only to kind of standardize our 3 different types of parking permits and the 3 different fee structures, but also to prepare ourselves for any future infrastructure that we're going to be building in terms of parking. We had an overhaul of a lot of our fees within the fire marshal's office. As we scrubbed those, we realized we were well underneath what we should be charging, so we made some adjustments to that based off of the time being spent on the implementation of a lot of those pieces and inspections specifically. And then the last big one I'll point out is within our development fees. After having a conversation with a local civil engineer and a couple of the business community, we realized that we were significantly under what is traditionally being charged for development plans. And as we are trying to remain competitive with recruitment of staff, but also be fairly compensated for the work effort, we had some significant changes to that. But also the addition of a third-party review for an outsourcing. Having discussed that, a lot of other organizations similar in size to us do outsource development plan reviews. So if someone wants to move quickly and get a project moving forward, we can outsource it to a local firm to help us with their review process. They would be paying a premium rate, but some people are okay with that. So that was an additional add. One other thing I will highlight is around our housing. There's some discussions within our office, specifically surrounding vacant buildings, residential, commercial, vacant properties, and some discussions specifically about the legality or the need to have escalator fees within the annual fees for registering those properties. And we can probably drill down on that a little bit. That's probably the biggest substantial change. And then there's a handful of other things, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, if you want to start and drill that's the first item that has some cross-outs, I believe, are the vacant building fees. So what brought about this? Because I compared it to last year's. I compared the whole fee schedule to last year's. So what brought about that look into that deeper dive there? And then what are you seeing as far as the legality is there?
I'm going to kick it off, and then I'll shift it over. If you go back about 3 years in our legislation, this was a newer thing that was added under Mayor Day's tenure, where we decided that we wanted to ramp up our registration of vacant properties, both residential, commercial, and vacant properties, and then wanted to have this escalator built in. It didn't exist, I think, before FY22. There's reasons for that. Those were discussed. Those are on the record. And I'll let Mayor take it from here. But we, as an administration, now think we may want to go a different path for a couple of different reasons. So,
I think one of the challenges that I see with that fee is that it's typically not illegal to keep your property vacant. I mean, it's not an ideal scenario depending on what the direction of the property is, but it's not technically illegal, obviously. It's like charging for a red door. You just can't just say, I don't like your red door, we're going to charge you a fee. And then the second part of it is that cities are capable and are able to institute a fee, but it has to be commensurate with an expense on the administrative side. So I had Heather Conyer put together just sort of a legal opinion on it just to kind of clear that, that particularly as I understand what he was trying to accomplish with the escalator, but it's just not it's just, you have other tools in your toolbox to get people to do what you want in terms of improvements or whatever, but you just can't arbitrarily say, oh, your property's vacant, we're going to escalate the fee on you, because there's just it's like I say, it's not illegal to have your house, for whatever reason, whether you're living somewhere else or coming back in the summertime or whatever, so I was going to just pass that around. That's what my Heather put together for the council.
2 questions. Can you share that legal opinion with us? Or you?
Yeah, yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so within that is, because not everybody has one sitting in front of them, there is a twofold. There is the proposal for residential vacant building registrations, reducing that from 200 to 100, and then an annual, so that's just the registration of it, and then an annual building fee for it being vacant of 100, and then there's the escalator based off the number of years it is vacant. You would pay a different premium rate on top of that. So twofold. That's for residential. We also have it for building, and then, but the proposal would be to reduce that registration fee, to reduce the annual, and to standardize the annual inspection fee to a singular rate rather than it being an escalator. You have the numbers in front of you, I believe, but I can go into details. And then that's also for commercial. And then I will note there was a complete removal request to remove vacant lots, non-residential vacant lot as an annual fee, just to remove that completely. Go ahead.
Mayor,
Right.
I think we just, how many properties do you say that are vacant in the city? We've got registered 54 or something? Okay, something in that range. Okay, 70 or so. Okay.
What is a vacant? Okay, hold on. What is a vacant building, and then what do we consider a vacant lot?
A vacant lot would be...
I'm only asking just so it's on the...
Yeah, a grass property.
Yes, okay.
So nothing without an improvement.
And then a vacant building is considered?
Vacant building that is non-residential could be a commercial space.
And then residential?
Residential would be a home, something that is used for a dwelling, a residential unit dwelling, so a vacant house, multifamily apartment.
What do we, like, how do we consider it to be vacant? So if I...
You're hopping. It's a timeline when you have to, after a certain period of time, you have to register it being vacant, et cetera.
So if a property is vacant at 6 months, they're required by code to register. And then it would usually around June of every year is when the new year kicks off. If it's still vacant, they have to renew at June, and then they have to get an inspection. And then it's an annual inspection if it's but basically just going just to look at the property and if there's any issues with it as far as safety issues on the outside. We don't do an internal inspection, it's a external inspection.
And other cities do this. This is not a Salisbury exclusive thing?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
So it just depends, but typically the larger a city is, they do tend to Baltimore City does their own thing. We don't compare ourselves to Baltimore because it's like another country.
I'm not sure. What is this? This isn't pertaining to vacant lots. What is this saying? Do you have this?
Yes, I've seen that. And that's just the law
Yeah.
in general on fees versus taxes.
Okay.
And so what you're looking at for the vacant fee is a fee, and as the mayor was saying, like this is like a standard that it would get measured by, and how you determine how much that fee is.
So is this legal? So us doing this fee, that is legal. This.
Oh, sure. You can certainly do the fee.
Okay.
The question is the amount of the fee. It has to have a reasonable relationship to
Gotcha.
the program. It can't be like a revenue generating mechanism or a punitive mechanism.
Gotcha.
Like in assessing the fee, that's what Heather has spelled out in the memo.
Perfect. And then one last, and then so our current fee, and if you can't answer this question now, if you need time to look, but our current fee, is that a reasonable fee as to not make it an illegal tax?
So that's not something that's necessarily a legal question. That is
Okay.
a question for Muir and his department and seeing how much of city services and manpower goes into kind of administering the
Sure.
program. So I know when this was initially enacted, his department, which he wasn't there at the time, was supposed to look into like the man hours that go into responding to calls for service, that kind of stuff.
Because I know, I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing, but I just have to, so I know that because if we ask someone who's impacted by the fee, of course they're going to say this is an extreme use, but so I just want to make sure that we have a benchmark, or we have some foundation that all these fees are aligned by. And then before we get started and answer these questions, the budget that we have, the budget we approved and we have done our council level adjustments, the revenue that is generated from these have the two been are they cohesive at this moment or no?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to suggest. There's only like 70 houses out of, 10,000 units in the city.
But this whole fee
I
schedule,
don't think it's meaningful, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's meaningful to the budget. Do you?
the whole fee schedule though, the revenue.
Okay. I just want to, specifically for the residential vacant building registrations, with this reduction, we did not show a reduction in our anticipated revenue
Okay.
for registration of buildings.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gregory?
She sort of asked it, but was there ever any data put together in things like calls for service? Because we know vacant homes and vacant properties often lead to more crime and that sort of thing. Is there data, or was there data collected back when we first passed this legislation? Because I know we had discussed it. What is that data like? I have a hard time saying that these are, extraneous fees, because we do have those calls to service. We do have all of that on us.
I'm trying to recall our conversations. I know we had a discussion with then Mayor Day as we went back and forth, and I think it kind of it was a little bit, but it wasn't. And I think some of the conversations I had with him might have been offline as well, because he and I were sharing some information back and forth. So a piece of it was also the idea that when you have a vacant property in a neighborhood or a foreclosed property, there are other things that affect the community as a whole, is one piece of it. They tend to attract more calls for service, but I don't think we ever had anything brought up as any specific data from that. I know that like what we do, when we update our vacant building registration, we share that with the police department, because then that, if they find somebody there, they can move them out immediately, as opposed if they're there and they're not registered, then the property owner has to go through the eviction process. So, but that's something that we can look into, as getting some data points from GIS on calls for service to registered vacants.
Also, I was just, it just went out of my head. The vacant lots, can we just clarify, these do not apply to vacant lots like the one that I own right next to my house that are in residential areas. This was only on lots that were, I believe, either commercial or aren't attached to a property that had an existing home that was with it. That was the understanding that I had.
Yeah, I don't think I missed it. I don't think we actually charge for a vacant residential lot. That actually is not on here. I think the initial thing, I guess 3 years ago, we decided not to do it. It was more for commercial. So there's nothing to delete because we never actually implemented it.
I just wanted to clarify because somebody had brought that up. So I just wanted to make sure.
And another, just kind of high level, and then we go right back in. Every year when we look at our fee schedules, typically either staff looks at them and comes up with conclusions based on what we want to do or adjust, or it's citizen complaint driven, or suggestions on maybe we're too high, maybe we should consider something else. We have not received much feedback from the community about eliminating these. I don't think we have a lot of people in that higher threshold. I think it's kind of a fundamental just shift in understanding on should we be doing escalators or should we not?
Okay.
I have a question. Okay, so I can see the escalator fee thing. My question is, out of this, 70 possible vacant lots that there are, do you, for transparency, because it looks like we're reducing the vacant building registration or vacant home resident. And is vacant also considered use the term blight? Or was that a separate thing? I didn't see the word blight.
I don't want to mix the two. You can have a vacant property that is not in a blighted condition, so there's not other code enforcement infractions or things. Blight, it's a general term, but I don't think you can say vacant means blight. But you can have blighted properties that are vacant too, that are because they're underkept and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
How many of these 70 vacant properties, Mayor Taylor, are yours? Do you have any vacancies? 2, yeah. Yeah, you have 2. Okay. I'm just for transparency, because people are going to ask. People are going to ask, so I'd rather just put it out there. So you have 2 vacant lots, and there's 70, correct?
2 vacant houses.
Oh,
Yeah.
2 vacant houses, okay. And,
Let me say that we have three vacant houses, one of which is almost done with renovating, yeah. That's kind of where all this came from. I feel like, the city already has tons of other tools to, whether it's peeling paint or grass in the cracks or whatever, that independent of the registration process. So, it's like register the property as vacant, that's one thing, and then police it on another. Whether it's occupied or not, you still have the same tools, so yeah.
but we don't have a fine in here for the term blight. So there's vacancy and blight. Vacancy can be blight, but blight can be different. So, or is that the tools that we're talking about on, because I thought at some point last year, there was a big conversation around the blighted properties. There was a lot of attraction with, like, drug trafficking, and there was a lot of gun violence, and the guns dropped off at some of these homes. And I just wanted to see if that had been taken out, or is that...
So, Councilwoman,
If I
looking
could
at
interrupt,
Mr.
I just want to help everyone out. The closer you speak to the mic, the more it's going to cut in and out. So I know that yes, but you see where, yes, it's going to continue to cut in and out, and I want to make sure the feed is okay. We're all
Okay.
speaking a lot. So a good 3-inch distance away will be.
Hello.
There you go.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So with municipal infractions and citations, they are defined with their penalties in the code elsewhere. So blight is typically falls within
All of
municipal
that.
infractions from the code enforcement standpoint rather than registration and fees. It is more punitive from an infraction standpoint and citation. So when you get into blight, you're getting farther into that code
Area.
enforcement side of it. Yes. And then you
Okay.
have chronic nuisance or problematic properties that then have other recourse that happens. But that is all found within the municipal code, not necessarily on the fee schedule. So we're not changing any of that or suggesting any
Gotcha.
changes to that.
The other question I have is the foreclosed property registration. How did that, per the code, so is that a reasonable to take it down from 1,000 to 100?
So that was complaint driven. I was contacted by an attorney. I've had a lot of back and forth with that attorney. And without going into, detail about those conversations, it was something that I asked staff to reevaluate and determine what fee is rationally related to our foreclosed property registration, and I believe that's the suggested fee that you're seeing in there.
I do want to note the $100 that is there is because we have the other one as $100 for the residential vacant property registration. So
they
we would want those to be the same. So if we don't do one and that stays at 200, I would consider
But the
that.
other one, you have not received complaints about. The other one, that is, I'm just saying, you noticed that, so you brought attention to it, which is, it's fine, but, okay, so the $100 for that, but then the others are $250. $100 for the vacant property.
For the appeal, you mean?
Okay. Okay.
Council President? if I
Yes.
may. Muir, what is an average? Is that considered an average amount for a city of our size? Because all I'm thinking is back to 2008 when we had a lending crisis. And so many homes became foreclosed, and then the banks just sat on them and did nothing with them for quite some time. So I don't want to see us go through that again, but if we do, we need to be prepared. Like, what is that $100 on par with other municipalities?
There seems to be, again, with this, there's towns that do stuff, towns that don't do anything. And so with the towns that do have fees, the couple of them some of them combine the fee, the vacant building and the foreclosure fee. Some have a separate fee like we do, and it looks to be between about 100 and 400 seem to be the highest
Okay.
that I saw.
Council, what other questions do we have, just to gently guide this conversation forward? What questions do we have regarding any of the other highlighted fees?
I wanted to look at, just quickly, under the community center rental fees, I wanted to see if in the Newton Community Center, are we not renting the kitchen out? Because if we are, I would advocate for the 25 an hour fee because of the.
So typically, when somebody uses the kitchen, the community room is not available as well, and they typically use the community room with the kitchen. So that's actually included with the community room, which is $40 per hour.
So under whole building?
It's under a whole building.
So if you're going to rent the kitchen, you have to rent the community room, so you can't
Yeah.
just rent the kitchen.
Oh, I'm sorry, the community room for $20 an hour.
All
So it
right.
would go with that.
So does that fee also help with like cleaning the kitchen or anything like that? Because the
That
kitchens are always like a big.
Anytime we have an event, there is staff that's on site during the event. So whether it's at Truett or Newton, we have staff there that will be there, and then when it's done, they'll close and set the alarm.
That was one of the questions I had. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay.
One question that I have is and you touched on it a minute ago, City Administrator, is the development plan review fee. You mentioned the third-party review fee. That's the $160 an hour, but the line above it, the fee for review for development plans, is that on par with other cities to X3 that fee to go from 1,000 to 3,000?
Yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah, it does seem like a bit. Having talked with members of DBF, Brock Parker, members of our business community, we weren't sure where we needed to go, but they did not see that was unreasonable for the market. They thought we were charging about 1/10 of what the private sector would be. So even at the $3,000, and what that includes was still below the private sector rates. So we knew we were significantly undercharging for our reviews. It is, yes, it is 3x. It is pretty high. But we've not gotten any additional kickback from that, other than kind of the business community saying that was probably doable. So, but I know you live in that world, so.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the things also was happening was people were coming back for a second, third review with no additional charge, which I think we're going to leave ourselves open to maybe doing that as well.
I think that would be reasonable if you added that, but I'm just 3x. That's pricey. I mean, that's a big jump. So if we say we're cutting, before, and then we're it's kind of, we seem a little unbalanced here with where we're going. So I want to know, and you mentioned earlier, if you asked you asked your employees, what's the plan? So
So the question earlier was, can you justify the fee? When you're looking at the staff hours, the planning, the meetings ahead of time, I can get to 3,000 pretty quickly.
And this
with
will come
staff
with
hours.
so hopefully if we're Xing 3, then that's going to come for a quicker turnaround time and higher response time. And I mean, the expectation is going to be a little bit more if we're. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if I, when I go to purchase something, and if now that the same item is now 3 times what it used to cost, I want either better level of service and more assurance from them.
Yeah, one of the things that this fee is allowing us to do is to be more competitive with our wages to hire staff, whether we are doing it through a contract or if we're doing it internally. A lot of our development plan review had been done through our single engineer. Having more staff on site will allow us to meet our timelines. We do say it's 30 days, up to 45 days. So if we still fall within that window, I think we're still meeting our demand, or meeting our promise to the developers. Our goal would be to not go beyond what we've told people we would do. We have started being able to hire more staff, so I think we're going to be able to do better with our plan review.
And that's the same for the site and development plan review. That's under the fire prevention, but is that the same? Was that under the fire marshal? Was that him giving this, or was that this is from this same tune?
I think that is underneath the fire.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Marshal.
That's all their fees, right?
Page 16.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just double check real quick.
16 or?
It says
18, I thought. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so fire marshal's plan review of staff time and hours to have Eric's office look at that.
I just, if I may,
Mm-hmm.
just a quick question back to the $3,000, your favorite part of this conversation. You said that this was significantly under the private sector. What is, on average, the private sector charging for something?
If we-
that might.
Yeah.
like,
If you did the 160 per hour, if someone went for that expedited rate, they're at 15 to 20 for the same process. You're easily looking at, so in the private sector, your billables are $160 an hour. You're probably easily 40 hours into a comprehensive review, and then you have some additional costs on top of that. So there's a lot of time invested into those. We are, again, not paying, we're probably paying, now we're probably paying a third of the market rate for the initial review. It is a steep jump. If we had gotten additional pushback, we might have
Modified.
considered stuff.
I know, like earlier, with the short-term rental,
Yeah.
we said we'll go after, those persons who are directly affected. It seems like for the vacant property, there have been some talks from people who are vacant property owners. It seems like for the foreclosed property, we had some complaints from people who may have been impacted.
I don't think it's inappropriate to name drop, but
I don't need your name. I just want to, if you.
No, we had members of SWED, we had Greater Salisbury in the room, we had civil, we had Brock Parker Associates in the room who does a lot of the development site designs. These are the people who are helping us. We had a representative from DBF helping us as we were deciding what our fees should be. We were getting feedback on what they thought the market could bear, and we thought this was a number that was reasonable. But again, we could. I'm not trying to take money away from ourselves. We can always start lower and go higher if you need that. But
No. I'm just so again with the whole thing here. I just want to make sure everything is on a level playing field. So I'm okay with this. If this, I just want to make sure we're not reaching too high here, but going too low there. Again, I know I don't want to dig deep into residents' pockets, for blight or vacant properties. But also I want to make sure that we are. If this is on par, then that's fine. But again, I know that for that jump, it's going to come with a level of, okay, well, now I'm paying you more, but I'm getting the same, I'm getting a similar level of service.
let's do this. Let me mine some more information, some surrounding areas, what development plan reviews are in adjacent properties.
There won't be public comment for this. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, I can ask County, Berlin, Ocean City, Worcester, some local areas.
There's not public comment for this section. There's not going to be public comment for this section. I appreciate it. There's not.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
Again.
Goodness. Yes.
So maps and copies, we wipe that whole section out? We're not charging for if someone wants a copy of a street map but I do see we have, small format, large format, small, large for photocopying, but like
Yes.
street maps, all of that. I mean, it wasn't very many or much of anything, but, so we're not charging any of those? I didn't know if that was
I'm
a
not even sure
mistake.
if we're, I don't think that's,
We've never done that.
yeah, I don't know if we're passing those out anymore as copies, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was a recommendation.
I think for going back to the development plans, I think if we map it out, because you're saying you're coming back, so if we, preliminary, right, and then final, if we separate those, I don't know if that will be prudent, but if you separate those, that will, one, give you could raise one on maybe a preliminary, but then final, you can determine where you're having your employees spend the most time, raise that one, and then that creates you to have two different benchmarks. You can then raise, lower, or keep it the same year after year. That would be a proposal that I would make.
Okay. Yeah, I'll shoot you guys some.
Thank you.
Some ideas.
Any other glaring questions, comments from council? I think we still have some, go ahead.
I was looking at Kim over there for process, knowing that we've done a first reading, there's a second reading that needs to happen. If this becomes part of the public hearing or does not, I don't know if, because it's kind of tied to the budget, but not necessarily. If we talk more about this on the 3rd as a separate piece, or if we need an additional budget session before we get to an actual reading of a second fee schedule. So it's more of a clarification.
Sounds like the second would be in order, another budget session to discuss.
It's for you guys to kind of then decide if you want to push it forward. So send you over a few more information, follow up on a couple of these outstanding items.
Yes.
And then you all can make some direction, or at least come to consensus for a second reading. We will also make sure that this fee schedule as modified that we're talking about right now is available to the public for additional
Appreciate it. Thank you.
feedback.
Great. Seeing no other questions, comments, or concerns, this budget session is now adjourned.